Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are going to do a deep dive into astrological energies for those of you born during the 1960s. And we're going to look at this through the energetic lens of Saturn entering Pisces, which is now the case as of March 7th, 2023. And Saturn will journey into all degrees of Pisces and be in this part of your chart, this part of your energy, bringing your attention to not only the Saturn and Pisces energies, but how it will be working with your chart as Saturn in Pisces opposes Uranus in Virgo and Pluto in Virgo. It also will be working with a Saturn return. For those of you born between March 1964 until March 1967, this is your Saturn return, which occurs for everyone between 58 and 60 years of age. Then we also have the Saturn in Pisces working with Chiron in Pisces, and there will be conjunctions to this Chiron. So if you were born during the 1960s, there's a lot that's coming up for you as this Saturn in Pisces transits through your chart, opposes any planets in Virgo, and brings your attention as well to the energies in Pisces. So we have a lot to go through here, and I'm going to take it piece by piece, meaning I'm going to talk about Saturn opposing Uranus in Virgo, then Saturn opposing Pluto in Virgo. We're going to talk about the Saturn return in Pisces and Saturn conjunct Chiron in Pisces. So these are the bigger energy signatures. And of course, it will be specific to you and your chart. It will be different for each of you. But this gives you some type of structure to work with and understand as Saturn transits through Pisces and will be working with all of these energies in your life and in your world. Now, not everyone is going to have all of this astrology activated, meaning not everyone has Saturn in Pisces in their natal chart, for example. So that piece of this information will apply to you, and then it might not apply to others. So take what resonates, take what applies to you, leave the rest. But I really wanted to recognize how this Saturn in Pisces is working with a big generation of souls, a big generation that came in with the strong Virgo energetic needs, themes, and expressions. And when you have a focal point of outer planets in your chart, such as the Virgo energies, it means that you came in with the sole purpose to really switch up and work with these energies, not only personally, but for the collective, because the outer planets are about collective evolution, about what each generation is here to embody, to work with, to develop, to grow, to restructure, and basically how this is strong for those who came in during the Uranus and Pluto in Virgo transiting years. So this is energy you already have in your chart. Most of you, if not all of you, would also have Chiron in Pisces as well, as Chiron entered Pisces in 1960 and stayed there until about 1969. So there are significant energies here that you're working with as Saturn moves through Pisces over the next 3 years. And this is a big time of change, self-expression, a personal revolution, and understanding what is no longer connected to you energetically, where you're ready to break free, but where you also have responsibilities. You also could feel like you're tethered to various parts of your life, and Saturn requires us to responsibly manage those parts of our lives, even amongst these big transiting energies. Now, I've already done recently for you 2 podcasts discussing the themes of Saturn in Pisces, but let me go ahead and summarize that a bit more so that it helps to understand what we are looking at and what we're moving through with Saturn in Pisces. Now, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's about endings, completions, reflection, looking back on what you've learned, understanding what you want to take forward. understanding where you are spiritually growing in this lifetime and what is essential as you rise above the physical world and you understand what you are tuning into and tapping into, while also giving a realistic assessment of how you used your energy in certain situations as well as in the present moment. The Pisces energy connects us with what we've been learning, the bigger picture of life, as well as how we are tapping into compassion, kindness, self-acceptance, and self-love for all the things we didn't understand in the moment, as well as our desire to remain in a place of detachment. Pisces is about surrender, surrendering the ego, surrendering what we are feeling attached to or locked into, and understanding that everything is meant to be in transition. Everything is meant to evolve and move forward, and that it's up to us to take what we want forward and leave the rest behind. Now, Saturn in Pisces brings our attention to these matters and how we are working with this energy in a very responsible and mature way. And that means that there are things that come to light with Saturn and Pisces, what we are reflecting on, what we're learning. You could even feel like it's a retraction of your energy from certain experiences or relationships in order to process, in order to be in that place of understanding what played out for you energetically, as well as bringing your attention to what are my spiritual principles in this lifetime? What is really grounding me in this world? What is really supporting me energetically, spiritually, and otherwise, so that I can navigate my earthly experience without feeling like I'm detached from my spiritual self, from my soul, from my higher self. So Saturn in Pisces brings in a grounding to your spiritual practices, asks you to look at how you are really moving through all the various circumstances in your life and doing so with integrity, as Saturn does require dignity, self-respect, and personal integrity in all expressions. Now, the lower energies of Pisces is where we can go into blame, self-pity, victim consciousness. It's where we feel disconnected from God, spirit, the universe. There can be a desire to keep searching and searching for that spiritual connection or some type of spiritual GPS system to not feel so alone, which is a signature of Saturn in Pisces, where there's things you have to do on your own. You have to be in your own energy to understand what's happening, what the dynamics are. So there can be an isolation effect as well. Saturn in Pisces is where you could feel abandoned by God. There could be a sense of feeling bitter towards spirit. There could be a sense of working through even some of those spiritual energies from other lifetimes. Saturn in Pisces also brings your energetic attention to karma, or energies that have been unresolved from other lifetimes and other times in your soul's growth. So this could be a lifetime where you feel like you are constantly finishing things up, perhaps with people, relationships, in career, with your kids. It depends on where Saturn in Pisces is for you, whichever house Saturn in Pisces is transiting through. But there's energies that we have to work out on our own terms, and that's where you are supported by God, source, the universe, whatever that means for you. And that's what Saturn in Pisces returns you to, is your spiritual body, your spiritual self. But it could be through a lot of hard knocks, because again, that Saturn in Pisces could feel like you're dealing with energies of abandonment, rejection. You're all alone in the world. You have to figure it out on your own. Maybe this is part of the karma or consequences from other lifetimes, or perhaps this is where you already have the tools you need to call in and support you as you navigate these energies. Saturn in Pisces brings in a structure to the very ungrounded realm of Pisces and brings in discernment and decision making. So as Saturn moves through this last sign of the zodiac, there's things you're going to have to decide that aren't for you, that you don't want to contribute to, that you don't want to put your energy towards. This can signal the ending of a life chapter or a cycle, especially one that started 30 years ago. Now, if you are born in the 1960s, this is the energy that perhaps you're already familiar with, especially if you were born between March 1964 and March 1967, which means you were born with Saturn in Pisces, and this is your Saturn return, your second Saturn return, which is very different than your first Saturn return. So you had your first Saturn return back in the mid-1990s, 1994 to 1996, when you were about 28, 29, or 30, and you were required to mature in your real-world experiences. This is often where people make a significant life choice or decision, where you perhaps buy a house, have kids, get married, get the job, get a new job. Something is required of you from the outer world to stand in your authority and to know yourself more. And that would have been some type of initiation even into the real world workings of our planet. There could have been things there that you had to let go of and surrender and realize this is no longer going forward with me. I need to do something different, or be ready for what I'm moving into next. So every Saturn return is a cycle of maturing with your responsibility, mastering your energy even more, and being very discerning around your commitments. So that would have been, again, in your late 20s, and that is when everybody on the planet has their Saturn return. Now you have your second Saturn return, but you're different. You are more mature. You have more life experiences. You have more that you've understood, how you've grown, how you know yourself. So the second Saturn return is very different because of the maturity you've gained, the experiences you've had, and what you've learned about yourself in the world. The second Saturn return, in fact, connects you with more accomplishments, more rewards, more recognition, an understanding of what you have participated in, what you have contributed to, and can also bring about a very deep sense of this is what I've accomplished during my time on the planet. Now, the second Saturn return is a time of endings and beginnings. And so there are things maybe that you are contemplating here about what's complete and over for you, what you're no longer wanting to do anymore. And maybe there are some new dreams that you're headed towards, some new ideals, some new things that excite you or lift you up, and even tap you into more of your spiritual growth in this lifetime, which is always the case when you have Saturn in Pisces in your natal chart. So for those of you who are moving into your Saturn return, it's a time of new life choices. It's a time of evaluating really clearly and consciously what no longer lifts you up, what is no longer inspiring, or what no longer drives you. It's also about understanding that everything is meant to transition. And this is also where I see that energy of the violet flame of transmutation, which works with the crown chakra. And that's also a Pisces energy signature, where if there's something you're struggling with choosing or understanding, or you just feel lost, which can be the case with Saturn and Pisces, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. Well, that's your human self not knowing. That's your mental body not knowing, but your higher self knows, your spiritual self knows, and that's where you're being guided to tap in and go higher into that next level dream. Go higher into your imagination and what you're feeling and sensing, and bring that down into your body. Bring that down into your mind so that you can gain some clarity on what would be the best use of your energy and time on this planet. Saturn is the timekeeper. Saturn is where we have to take things day by day, year by year. We can't rush it or fast forward. Saturn is where time is managed effectively and purposefully. And you could feel a new purpose. A Saturn return could be a new sense of this is my next level purpose, or this is what I'm going to do with what I've been doing in the world, and I'm going to take it forward. Now, traditionally, this second Saturn return has also coincided with retirement, empty nest, moving or selling a house, being done with a significant chapter in your life, and that's so that you can recalibrate to move into that new purpose or this next chapter of your life. Keep in mind that Saturn works in 30-year cycles. So in our lifespan, we may have 3 Saturn cycles from the ages of 0 to 29, about 30 to 58, 59, and then from about 60 to your late 90s. And so this is important to look at your life in terms of these 3 slices of experiences, where from 0 to 30, what was it about? From 30 to 60, what was it about? From 60 to 90, what was it about? And I realized I just said late 90s and I meant late 80s. So you can look at it in those 3 sections. I tend to think of the Saturn energies as how we mature through various phases of our life. And this certainly coincides with the energetics of Maiden, Mother, Crone, as well as Page, Knight, King, or whichever 3 archetypes resonate with you and resonate with your own evolutionary journey. So that Saturn return is where Saturn returns to where it was in your natal chart when you were born, and is designed to return you to your purpose in this lifetime, the energetic expression that you feel called to trust, that is purposeful for you, that gives you a grounding and maturity, and also what you're made to put into some type of form. And that is something that Saturn requires. It's like you have all the Pisces imaginations or ideas. Well, do something with it. And what are you going to do with it? How are you going to honor it? So this is big for those of you who are experiencing your Saturn return in Pisces. And now I want to talk about what it means for those of you who not only maybe have the Saturn return, but you're working with Uranus in Virgo. And I'm going to talk about this interaction first. So Saturn in Pisces opposing Uranus in Virgo is a very dynamic back and forth oppositional dance between 2 parts of your life, 2 parts of yourself that you are looking to manage and balance. But when you have such strong energies, it tends to be a seesaw effect where the energy goes all the way to Uranus and Virgo and then comes back to Saturn and Pisces. And that's what you're learning to manage. Now, as I mentioned, Saturn in Pisces brings about what is complete for you, what no longer resonates, what you are trusting, how you're trusting the unknown, trusting that you're done with something, but you don't know what's next. It's that type of energy. But the opposition to Uranus and Virgo is about feeling the sense of I need to do something every day. That Virgo energy is responsible, wants to contribute and be of service to something bigger than itself. It also is very much about looking at where do I fit in. So Uranus and Virgo, if that's in your chart, it means that you could have had multiple jobs throughout your life. You've sampled, you've done a lot of things. You've been looking to find yourself and your gifts through your everyday work and service. Maybe you've been really good at a number of things, or perhaps you've really honed in on a particular skill set, but you still want the freedom to do it your own way. That is Uranus. Uranus is about self-expression, authenticity. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want anyone coming in and taking over my desk or my space. That Uranus and Virgo is a wild card energy, but it relates directly to your Virgo energies of how you are responsible with your skills and even looking at how they can improve, be more efficient, how you can do things your own way that are your unique formula, your own special spark of expression, and where you need the freedom to be yourself. So this energy having an opposition from Saturn and Pisces is going to feel like you're tethered to something. You've got to stay the course. You've got to stick it out, even though a part of you wants to be set free, even though you might not want to keep doing the job or doing the thing, but you have responsibilities there. There's things you have to take care of, and you can't just do your own thing every day. In fact, this is where you could have someone come in who feels like they embody that Saturn authority energy, whether they are someone who has been around the block and they have more experience, or there's just a responsibility built in to what you need to take care of. Whenever Saturn opposes an outer planet such as Uranus, there's a tension here. There's a sense of, this isn't what I want to do, or maybe this isn't what I would actively choose, but here we are. Here I am. I've got to see this through. And the Pisces energy doesn't always want to see things through. It wants to disappear out the back door. It wants to ghost something and not show up again because it's not an energetic fit. So there could be a tension here for you around choices that you want to make, but during that opposition to Uranus in Virgo, you could feel like you're really going back and forth. You could feel that you're wanting to just let something go and be complete, but you can't. There's also the responsibility of Saturn, where you have to take care of things, look at what is really going on, the bigger picture of it all, and how the Virgo energies might be working with your sense of purpose, maybe even working with your health. So the Virgo Pisces polarity axis in astrology is about service, the service that we give, the service we receive, how our energy contributes to something in a bigger way. It's also about health and how that sense of doingness, that sense of wanting to assist and be connected can also wear us out. Looking at the energies of your body, your physical vessel, how you're managing your day-to-day reality. If it's supporting you, if it's draining you, Saturn in Pisces is going to bring your attention to this type of energy where the Virgo doesn't want to stop working. I'm going to keep doing the thing. I'm going to work through the weekends. I'm going to show up and tend to my creations, and I'm going to be there. Well, Saturn in Pisces can require downtime. You got to take time off. You've got to stop all the doingness, and you need to pay attention to what your energy says, not just what your mind says or your body says. Virgo is the mind-body connection. Pisces is the feeling intuitive connection. So you have an opportunity here to get all four elements of your body in better balance. Again, the mind, body in Virgo, the emotional and intuitive in Pisces. How are these working together? Do you shut one down and amplify the other? Do you ignore parts of yourself? If so, your body could be giving you messages around what needs attention and care, and also requiring you to step away from some of that Virgo intense focus to be productive, get it done, keep working, keep going, make sure it's good enough, do more. This is a time to balance it and step back from that workload as well as from the mental pressure. So now let's bring in Pluto in Virgo, which is also working with those of you born in the 1960s. Now, Pluto entered Virgo in 1957 and stayed in Virgo until 1972. So even those of you who were born before the 1960s and after, you would have this Pluto in Virgo energy signature. And you're also going to have the opposition from Saturn and Pisces. Now, Saturn opposing Pluto is a big deal. It's a rock in a hard place. It's understanding that there are evolutionary journeys that we're on. There's things that really give us a sense of focus and power. And going into the themes I just mentioned here, the Pluto in Virgo is transforming our daily lives, brings us back into not only the body, but what the body needs to be more healthy, to be optimum. So Pluto in Virgo and Uranus in Virgo brings us into our health choices, how we are exercising, how we're establishing a lifestyle that works for us, what we're eating and digesting. In fact, Virgo rules the digestive tract. Virgo also rules, as I mentioned, the mental body and that connection between the brain in our head and the brain in our gut. So there's the brain-gut connection here with Virgo as well. So the Pluto and Virgo energies are about what we're meant to consistently improve and how that feels good to step into your skill set and what you have uniquely crafted for yourself, where you have perhaps been pushed into some difficult situations, maybe even a health crisis, maybe even something that deeply transformed your body or your sense of service and purpose in the world and asked you to step into more of what is possible for you. But because of that Pluto energy, it brings in intensity. So the opposition from Saturn and Pisces is interesting because it shows you what you have to let go of. And so much of the Virgo energy is about the practicality and being deeply connected to the earth, being very aware of what needs to get done in order to make improvements. Virgo is actually the astrology sign that asks how. How am I going to do this? How is this going to happen? How is this going to come together? How? Well, Saturn in Pisces is going to not give you an answer. You're not going to know the how. Saturn in Pisces is a master class in trusting what you can't see right now. And it's asking you to temper that Virgo energy, temper the analytics, step away from the overthinking and the figuring it out, because Saturn in Pisces isn't going to reveal the answers just yet. Rather, it can likely bring your attention to what's not working. And this is where things start to fall apart. Saturn opposing Pluto can deconstruct and reveal this is no longer paying off. This is no longer useful. This no longer works. So this is going to be an energy cycle where there's some things that come crashing down. They've served their purpose. They're no longer supporting you or even of interest to you. Perhaps, though, these are things that have been working very well, and now you're realizing it's not connecting, and then you're wondering, why isn't this working? And again, Saturn in Pisces is revealing the energetic shifts, how this has served its time and served its purpose. Now, I also want to pull in an important cycle here that matters. Now, when Saturn in Pisces is opposing both Uranus and Pluto in Virgo, this is the energy of needing to balance the seesaw, the teeter-totter, because 14 years ago, Saturn was in Virgo. Saturn in Virgo was conjunct Uranus in Virgo, conjunct Pluto in Virgo. And it probably brought your attention to the Virgo energies in your life, how you're working with them, your responsibility, what you're really tending to on a daily basis. But this could have been something really big changing in your life, as Saturn in Virgo was conjunct both Uranus and Pluto at that time. So again, about 14 years ago is when the focus on Virgo was really strong. Now, here we are, 14 years later. Saturn's in the opposite part of your chart, rebalancing you, balancing you into the Pisces energies of letting go, not being so invested, not overthinking, not allowing the Virgo energies to be too much of your self-definition. So it's looking at how you have worked with those Virgo qualities. Well, this is my job. This is what I do. This is how I assist people. This is how I guide people. This is what I'm an expert at, and I do it really well. And the Saturn in Pisces is the surrender of the ego, where there are parts of your Virgo energies that are going to dissipate. They're not going to be as strong. They aren't going to be energies that perhaps you're even feeling as deeply connected with. And in a more practical assessment, you could say you're ready for a job change and you don't know what. You're ready to do something different, but you don't know what that is. You're stepping away from all of that Virgo energy, coming into the Pisces realms that want you to detach and surrender, that want you to step back and see the bigger picture of your life, but also see the bigger picture of your soul's journey. And it's interesting because what I'm feeling so strongly right now are two things that are very random, as they always are from my guides. So this is where I take in intuitive information and I channel it, I'm seeing two things. I'm seeing, first of all, someone who's really done with a certain profession. It's been bothering you for a while. You've understood that it's no longer interesting or stimulating. It doesn't even work with what you want to do next. And maybe you have an inkling of what you want next. You have an idea of the next thing that's calling to you, and it's very different from what you've done professionally. In fact, what I'm feeling so strongly is that it's something you did professionally in another lifetime. And what I'm seeing is someone who works with iron. Like there's this iron forging, and it's working with the fire and the metals and making things with your hands, which is very Virgo, but it's pulling in your imagination. It's pulling in not only your desire to create and do something more expressive. By the way, Virgo also rules the body, the hands, and what we do, that we craft and we shape into something useful. But it's also, what I'm feeling is pulling in where you've been an expert in other lifetimes. And you could think, oh, well, I don't have training. I'm not certified. I don't know if I can do this. And that's part of what Virgo often requires of itself. Virgo is the apprentice, where we learn new skills and we work with them to determine if they're a fit. But I'm feeling like many of you are going to have some kind of about face in your career. You're going to do a 180. There's something else that you're moving into that could seem wildly random, but we know that it's not always random. I feel like you're pulling on other professions, job titles, careers you've done in other lifetimes that you were so good at, and you're recalling that. There's sort of like this cellular memory coming up, even maybe a DNA memory of what you've done that you're really good at. But in this lifetime, you're like, I've never even been in any kind of studio, or I have no idea how you would even start to do anything with metal or to shape it and shift it into something else. But that's what I'm seeing so clearly here, is that there are some things that are calling to you that maybe you've pushed away. You've pushed away your whole life. You're like, I'm not good at that. How's that going to pay the bills? I can't do that because of XYZ. There's something here where Saturn in Pisces could be redirecting you towards a whole new career direction that you maybe only dreamed about, but there's something speaking to you for a reason. So trust that. Trust whatever that might be. Now, the other thing that was coming through that, again, I love how my spiritual team works because they always make me smile. They're showing me the Roman aqueducts, which I know nothing about and which is so random that I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And they're saying that the Roman aqueducts was this incredible engineering breakthrough that transported water to populations, to cities that needed fresh water. And it was this huge development in daily life. It's very Virgo. It's very Uranus and Virgo and Pluto and Virgo, where you create new things that are needed, that solve problems, that improve daily life and lifestyles, and that bring about some significant changes that last for a long time. So the Roman aqueducts were built above the ground, and you can Google it. They were beautiful. And this transportation of water revolutionized what was possible in cities, in towns, for ordinary citizens. You didn't only have to be royal or regal in order to access ongoing water supply. So this is something of an archetypal understanding of how the Uranus and Pluto and Virgo energies are here to revolutionize something for us in a daily, simple, perhaps even mundane matter, but it has big effects. It's really important. It makes a very big splash, if you will, in our everyday needs. And so they're saying that this is part of what those born in the 1960s feel. And maybe you even feel a deep resonance with the Roman Empire, or maybe you were someone who in another lifetime you built those aqueducts. But it feels like this is a reminder of how essential it is to stay connected to what you're feeling inspired to create, how revolutionary it is. They're showing me intellectual property. They're showing me patents. They're showing me things that have been created that are very useful in everyday society that, again, we take for granted. It's just been there. It's something that has been useful and a part of our world on an everyday basis. But there's something here that you could feel you're ready for that kind of next creation or next step. There's something calling to you that you want to move into. You want to trust it. And the Saturn in Pisces is where we access those very creative ideas. And Saturn wants you to make them tangible, make them real. So with Saturn opposing Pluto, there's going to be a push-pull. There's also going to be things that you need to let go of that started 14 years ago. And this is general. Maybe it was 13 years ago. Maybe it was 16 years ago. Depends on the transit for you. But just going back to, let's call it 13 to 16 years ago, this is now where Saturn is on the other side of your chart, bringing your attention to Pisces energies and where something now is needing to be resolved, completed, unraveled, even a sense of, again, you don't have energy for it, you're not interested in it, but that Virgo energy could be holding you to something, sort of like golden handcuffs, sort of like, I've got to take care of this because I'm so invested, I'm in deep. But Saturn is asking you to assess it from a bigger perspective and to determine if you really in your power and responsibility with it, if you're also truly aware of how it's affecting you on a daily basis. This goes back to your health. This goes back to your body consciousness and your energy levels and understanding, is this draining me? Is this just too exhausting and I can't do it anymore? Now, Virgo is also a very keen athlete, very strong physical body, the ability to take on a lot, to gain strength, to improve your own physical vessel and physical exertion levels. But the opposition from Saturn in Pisces could feel like you're sidelined. Could feel like I can't do as much as I used to do. I'm getting tired. I need more sleep. Don't push it with Saturn in Pisces opposing Pluto. Don't try to make yourself do more when your body is requiring you to check in, perhaps take a break, take a rest, and let yourself off the hook. So this is where you could also come up against your own perfectionist, your own workaholic, the part of you that wants to keep going, get better, do this in a new way. I know what we can do next. This is tempering that energy. It's pulling back and retracting from what you have asked of yourself to do or take on. This is also where you want to prioritize your true energy levels, not just what your mind is saying, not what you think your body can handle. But again, Saturn in Pisces is how you're feeling, what you're sensing, even if it doesn't make sense. Where you're like, I used to work 7 days a week. Maybe now I'll just temper it back and do 4 days a week. And that's really hard for Virgo, because what happens with those Virgo energies is that it moves into guilt. It moves into a sense of I could be doing more. I should be doing more. So watch for those shoulds. And also understand that this is part of a grander cycle. And if you work with the cycle, you're stepping into the ease and gracefulness of it, which is going to feel a lot better than stepping into that push-pull, rock in a hard place energy of struggling against circumstances outside your control. And that's part of what comes up as Saturn in Pisces opposes both Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. Situations outside of your control are going to end. They're going to be complete. They're going to be over. And it's simply because of the timing of it. So again, if you were to go back 13 to 16 years ago, when something was really strong in the Virgo parts of your chart, now it's clearing out, it's dissipating and dissolving, and it would actually be a waste of energy to fight for it. It could feel like you're fighting for something that is over. It could feel like fighting for it or trying to command it in some way isn't really going to work. Because Saturn is about the timing of our lives, there's things that are on time to transition out, transition out of your life, transition away from, allow it to leave. And this is part of preparing for when Saturn enters Aries. And that will happen for a few months in 2025 and then again in 2026. So this is looking at what you're truly invested in and how it supports you. It feels like this very interesting 80%, 20% configuration. It could even be like 80% is leaving, 80% is over, and you're just taking the best with you, almost like you're only packing a few suitcases to carry forward and you're having to leave behind the house or surrender a lot of the possessions. This is where we have to be very discerning and clear in what is still an energetic fit, what still matters to us, while noting that most of it is over or most of it is not designed to carry with you into the next chapter. Now, if you were born in the 1960s, you also most likely have your Chiron in Pisces. Saturn is going to come through and make a conjunction to your Chiron in Pisces. And here's what I want to bring up first about this transit is that you had your Chiron return between the ages of 49 and 51. That happens for everybody. And so Chiron was in Pisces when you were 49, 51. Your Chiron return is basically assessing your life, how you've lived it, the choices you've made, what's worked for you, what hasn't, what's been left on the table that you still want to follow, pursue, or create. And even during your Chiron return, there could have been a lot of significant life endings because it was in Pisces. There's things you had to let go of. Again, perhaps you felt like it was out of your control. There were things you had to take care of and even move into more of your spiritual mastery. And that is one of the ongoing signatures with Pisces, is that as we let things go in our physical life and in our world, we then can elevate into the spiritual purpose of it all. What was the spiritual purpose of that time in your life? What was coming up for you that you had to trust and have faith, even though it was very hard, emotional, perhaps even damaging? It could have felt like during your Chiron return, there was a whole lot leaving and nothing stayed, like this grand clearing out of areas of your life. But that was a number of years ago now. So here comes Saturn in Pisces to check in on what you've realized and discovered since your Chiron return. Also, how have you grown spiritually? How are you actively using your energies, your intuition on a regular basis? Have you fully owned the gifts that Chiron often delivers after the fact? Chiron, being the wounded healer, means that first we go through a loss, a pain, something emotional that really brings us into more of our own purity, the purity of our gifts, of what we're capable of what we didn't see before. And then you unwrap it, you discover it, and you're meant to fully integrate it. So as Saturn in Pisces moves across your Chiron, it can bring up any unresolved wounds. It can bring up anything in your health that needs your attention. It can reveal to you where perhaps you haven't fully integrated or applied that Chiron healing medicine. It can also show you what you wanted to do, but maybe it hasn't transpired yet. Saturn is going to be the one who says, okay, what are you going to do with this part of your energy, this part of yourself? How are you continuing to master it? And what have you learned about your own vulnerabilities? The Pisces energy wants us to soften into ourselves, soften into parts of ourselves that maybe the ego or the mind will push away or fight off. But this is where we understand how beautiful these gifts are, how beautiful it is to understand our own wounds and vulnerabilities and to just be aware of them, to just honor them while also continuing to work with them and master them. So Saturn conjunct Chiron in Pisces is going to bring your attention to how you have worked with the Chiron energies since your Chiron return between 49 and 51 years of age, and brings your attention to what you're doing with it. Also, if you let anything slide, if you ignored, if you procrastinated, if you denied, Saturn brings it front and center. If you've been putting off things you need to take care of, Saturn brings it front and center. If there's something your body needs, changes you have been slow to make in your life, Saturn conjunct Chiron in Pisces is going to say, you got to take care of this. You've got to be responsible with this. Even if you don't know what to do with it, ask an expert. Check into it. Look at what you can do. So again, this also can relate to the health energies that we've been discussing between the Virgo and Pisces polarity axis, but it's understanding that Saturn is going to require you to take care of it, especially if it's anything you've been putting off and delaying. So keep that in mind, that there can also be something serious that comes up with Saturn conjunct Chiron. And this is unique for everyone, so I'm just speaking in general terms, but there's things that you've got to take care of, and you can't just ignore it or let it drift away anymore. Now, one more thing I want to mention here about Saturn in Pisces as it works with those of you born in the 1960s. It is going to trine Neptune and Scorpio. And that is a beneficial energy for next steps. This is where you're really digging in and trusting what you're feeling. You were born with Neptune and Scorpio, and the trine from Saturn is going to stabilize something. It's going to show you what to work with, what to trust. It's also going to give you a sense of direction as that Saturn in Pisces trines Neptune and Scorpio, which maybe holds some of the skeletons, some of the secrets, some of the things that you didn't think others would know or you don't want them to know. Neptune in Scorpio is also our own psychology. So you're going to get into some psychology of your fears or limitations, really go into what you want to shift or alter, and then that Saturn trine is going to stabilize it and give you some kind of yes. So look for that trine amongst these oppositions and conjunctions, which are energetically intense. In astrology, these are always big energies. These are life-changing energies, life transitions. It's time to pivot. It's time to do the new thing. It's time to go in a different direction or in a new place. And that Neptune in Scorpio trine is going to give you access to what has been within you, maybe what's been lingering, also where you need support. And to ask for that support, to go into anything that is healing, any kind of therapy or counseling, any ways you can open up to your own fears, your own internal psychology of limitations, and where you can move into that and understand that there's always a way through. There's always things we have to work with. And I feel like Saturn in Pisces trining that Neptune in Scorpio is going to lead to some breakthroughs that you're ready to own and you're ready to take into the next chapter of your life. So this is certainly a big energy signature. It's a big deal when it's working with all of these outer planets, especially in a personal way. And these are just some general understandings of the energies. Of course, it's going to be different for you depending on your own chart, depending on where your sun is, your moon, your personal planets, everything in your chart. But this is going to be an understanding of the themes of your life as Saturn moves through Pisces, opposes Uranus and Pluto in Virgo, and is conjunct Chiron and possibly also conjunct your own natal Saturn. It is time to step away from the over-focus on Virgo. It's time to move into more of your spiritual self. It's time for that next level awakening. It's time for ready to go into something new or different while letting go of what you've known. And understanding it's all part of your journey. It's all part of your personal evolution. And to look at how you're able to flow with these changes and to really be aware of the possibilities that maybe you didn't truly see before, but they're now showing up. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful and gave you some good insights into this energy cycle. As always, you can find out even more on my YouTube playlists. Please check out the playlists that go into more of your astrology chart and also look at perhaps some things that are happening for you throughout 2023 and into the next year. You can find out all about my astrology programs and offerings over at mollymccord.online. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back here every Wednesday and Monday for a new podcast episode. And certainly feel free to listen to this again or as many times as you need to maybe get even more out of these themes. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.